Building Mecca to Save Lives, a partnership responsibility series where I conducted research to help cities, hopefully churches, and other community service organizations understand how to begin to dive into issues in their community and do very innovative approaches to gain information that will then help them develop the infrastructure to build social support systems for people in need. This partnership was conducted and developed in order to fulfill an assignment. However, because of the content and the amount of information I was able to gather, it began to build momentum where community members that I interviewed and engaged in the research became very involved in the process. The first urban inner city center I looked at is called the 16th Street Pregnancy Center. This is extremely important because 16th Street in Indianapolis, Indiana, has a long history, and it's one of those city centers that even today is extremely important. It's a vital thoroughfare, not only for businesses, but for crime and for various lifestyles to go into those pockets and be unseen for a long time. I've experienced a lot of things on this street. I go there to buy food or I go there to socialize, not knowing that right in the depth of that street are hidden two critical social impactful issues. One of them being an abortion center, and the other one being the lack of a pregnancy center. And both with teen problems of pregnancy and both with solution based focus where people use the abortion center as a means to eradicate their pregnancies. This is social crises on 16th Street. While our assignment was to go in and do quick research, we could have used a variety of research techniques. The one I chose for my project was called and is used widely. It's called the Windshield Observation Project. This is a technique where we go and observe an area that has a large social need where we as researchers do not infiltrate or control the circumstances or the outcomes. We go in and observe and take notations on what we see. And on this particular corridor, I went to observe what was going on day in and day out at the abortion clinic. I was there for an entire day to observe how many people, what the sign said, who was going in, who was coming out. I got to see an entire process, whether it's the people who are religious with belief values or whether it was the people going in and seeking medical solutions to their pregnancies through abortion. The use of this methodology is widely supported. My data I collected in a whole day, I saw 183 people go into the abortion center. This method is backed by research since 1971 as a means to collect community health data that is more reliable because not only do we have fact base, but we're looking at the ethics of how a researcher may or may not impact the system. I use various data points in order to collect additional data about this particular corridor and the issues. And this is called the BRFSS, which is surveillance system data that covers the entire United States so that we can beam in on geographic locations that we are observing. In my windshield survey data that I collected, I counted in 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 and 4 hours, and then I would repeat the cycle again. Who entered, who exits, how many people were standing outside. And you can see from the data that this abortion center was a very busy center that continued to not only have people go inside, but a lot came out. And some people that went in, I did not see come out. They could have used a different door, and so on. The amount of people that were standing out changed, and the increase, as you can see by hour three, hour four, had a significant impact on what was going on. As I observed the area and then looked at the BRFSS data, I was able to count 8 pregnancy centers in the geographic location. However, the need for the reduction of abortion centers, the landscape filled with abortion centers was just not there. It was one clinic and one clinic only in that particular corridor, which is a major infrastructure. And as a result, there are many programs there, yet it seems like they were not meeting the need because of the high count of people who went into the abortion center and came out of the abortion center, as well as a lot of the political happenings right in front of the abortion center. While faculty wanted us to use these observational data to project into building a public health policy that would support the data collected and how we might make a change in the particular area, I also looked at the Monroe County Public Health Task Force in the area. While this is fictitious in terms of the information not being used, this is actual process that we would use to conduct this type of data. Hospitals will use this, as well as major corporations will look for the information that is fact-based in order to make priority decisions on what programs should exist and how to utilize funding in order to build new facilities or consider social health programs that will improve not only the 16th Street corridor, but other such areas. To dive in a little further, Behavior Health Factor Surveillance System, BRFSS, at the lower county levels looks at not only the health risk factors. In Indiana in 2020, when I researched this particular geographic area, the percent of pregnancy went from 11.9 to 33.6%, and it ranged up and down depending on the point of contact of that year when the data was collected. And there were other data factors that could be collected in this system. My best data that I thought was just really helpful and useful is looking at how many students are in school in the area, how many high schools are in the area, how many students go to college in the area, how many students go to vocational, and how many students report being dropouts with no jobs. That's very important as we take a look at and compare data as to why the pregnancy number was high in some areas, and then in this particular area, why it stays stagnant or dropped or would then spike up, or why there was more abortion activities than usual. The prevalence of adversities in healthcare, when it shows up in communities, it's because either there are resources or there's a lack of resources. This is the constant debate in every aspect of financing healthcare in urban communities. In order to make this study effective, I did my research. I did my homework in the literature. Empirical studies require us to have literature to back up any type of study we do that we will bring to the public as a viable post to create a research base or a reason we're in a community and wanting information from that community. Now, the irony of this is I did go to businesses and talk to them about the abortion center in the area, and I did another research program where I asked if you were to look at this situation with the abortion clinic, does this interfere with your business at all? Overwhelmingly, a lot of the businesses had a kind of like a double dipping idea. They were like, on one hand, we know it's morally wrong, but it brings business in the area. Somebody has to get a drink, somebody has to get gas, somebody has to get this or that. And I asked the second question: if the abortion clinic was removed and a pregnancy center was built here, do you think it would impact your business, increase it or decrease it? And that question, I heard crickets. That told me a lot when I began to share with these businesses about the statistics and the abortion numbers and what was happening right around them within a 3 mile radius. They were shocked and blown away. And some even said, that's why I don't get involved. I have no comment. That told a story of a community that has become apathetic or desensitized to what is happening, where we have to make those moral choices and decisions. I did ask families who have teenagers about this, and if their teenagers became pregnant, what would they say about having an abortion clinic in the area and no pregnancy resources? Many of them were alarmed and said, do you think that we can influence our government to plant such a thing here? There's hope. And the literature told me that in that area, there are no pregnancy centers and no models of one right in the center there. They have to go further out. Therefore, there's no influence in that community of how to determine or make moral choices which will lead to a better life for either the mother or the baby. Pregnancy is a very complex issue, and pregnancy is seen by most often in the literature a choice methodology. And in that choice, the mother has to make a social determination, not only for herself, but for her infant. And depending on the decisions she makes, depends on whether they are counted in to the social fiber of good society or they are counted in to the lifestyle which they feel will lead to not only impoverishment for the mother without resources, but also create another generation of a human line that will also face challenges and difficulties. While there are many resources that beat this barrier and remove it from many mothers, in the 16th Street Corridor project I conducted, there's low income and very, very few resources, not even government housing is in the area. Therefore, pregnancy here results in abortions rather than moral choices being made to save the baby and the mother and give them hope that they will have a great future. There are some choices that governments can make here. It is critical in making those choices that governments, city politicians, families, teams, teachers, schools, everyone use data as the driving force to make any decisions, and to use the research data that is backed up not only by empirical studies and literature reviews, but also by techniques that I use to conduct this one is critical to decision making. As I left this project, the businesses left me with a proposition. They wanted to see it in numbers. They said, if you can prove to us that planting a pregnancy center here will not only improve our community, morally create an atmosphere of people who have rights, but that it will impact our business positively, we'll be all in for it. But if you can't, then we're not going to have any say so, and we'll let people make the choice to keep the abortion clinic and to keep on, if someone gets pregnant, finding their own path for how they're going to address that issue. While the 16th Street Corridor is a proposal I have started creating in hopes of growing this proposal into a fact-based system so that I may be able to influence city governments to plant a pregnancy center to save lives in every city, in urban centers within a 5 mile radius of every residential area, and reduce the choice that only abortion clinics is the only way to go. This proposal needs some more work, and I would have to add more body to this research in order to deliver that before a city council. Pray for me, and I plan on doing just that. that the 16th Street corridor is going to be a great place to plant a city-wide campaign to create abortion less places and pregnancy resource centers to grow families, to save lives, and to give hope.